An exciting day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just revealed a fat batch of Lord of the Rings spoilers, and they look amazing. We've got awesome mythics, powerhouse uncommons, but it looks like there might be a big problem with the serialized One Ring.
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History.
I'm an old wizard!
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for some Lord of the Rings goodness. The spoiler cards today are absolutely awesome, and I was not joking about powerful uncommons. Wizards is stepping up the level of uncommons for this set. So I also mentioned that the One Ring appears like it might be a big problem. We will discuss that at the very end of the video because they're only making 1 out of 1. They're doing a serialized 1 of ring. So let's start with the spoilers and then we'll talk about that. We're starting out today with an absolutely epic card that wins both on flavor and mechanical execution. And that is Samwise the Stout-Hearted, one of my favorite characters from the Lord of the Rings. He's not the most powerful, but his courage and heart are absolutely incredible. 1 white and 1 gets you a 2/1 legendary halfling peasant. He has flash. When he enters the battlefield, choose up to 1 target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. Return it to your hand, then the ring tempts you. I'm curious to see how many different temptation cards we're going to see overall in this set, but the execution of this card is fantastic. Basically what happens story-wise is Samwise goes and rescues Frodo. He's trapped by this giant dangerous spider, and Samwise shows up with this glass vial that has basically pure starlight trapped inside of it, and he uses that and it starts to burn into the spider's mind. And look at the flavor text. It says, "You've hurt my master, you brute, and you'll pay for it." I absolutely love it. Samwise's dedication, the glory of him standing there with the vial. This is an epic win for a card, and the actual mechanics of it could represent Samwise rescuing Frodo as well, on top of the fact that you can use it to get back fetch lands, you can use it to get back creatures that have died in combat. This is a solid uncommon, right? Next card we have is even better. This is Reprieve, and you can see white is getting some powerhouse uncommons. 1 white and 1 for an instant. Return target spell to its owner's hand, draw a card. You may notice this is actually a color-shifted Remand, and Remand has always been a very solid choice as a tempo thief. You get to go, you know that spell that you spent all that mana on? No, go ahead and put that back into your hand. And I'm actually going to replace that card with a new card in my hand by going, goodbye Reprieve, I've replaced it with another card while you have just wasted your mana. It feels really good, and in all honesty, it feels more white than blue. White is more about delaying and setting the rules, and blue is more about outright countering things. So this feels right in white. The flavor text says, "As Faramir and Eowyn stood, so their hands met and clasped, though they did not know it." The artwork looks absolutely gorgeous, right? This is a nice little scene with some characters that we have wanted to see. The birds flying in the background, the hair blowing up in the wind. This is super epic looking. I really dig the vibe of the artwork in this set a lot. Moving on, we've got the Shire. Oh, I can't get enough of this. A legendary land enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary creature. Tap it to add a green, pay 1 green, tap it, and an untapped creature you control, create a food token. How right does this feel? This is the Shire, where the hobbits live in their little hobbit holes that you can see in the artwork, and they live an idyllic, peaceful little life where they eat like 7 different meals a day. They're very much concerned with what goes in their bellies, and I have to admit that as I age, I feel more Hobbit-like. I get more keen on what my meals are going to be and not missing them. So I can definitely identify with that. And the contrast of the Hobbit sort of sedentary nature where they spend their time eating and staying in their happy little home is really at contrast with the horrific journey that Frodo is forced through, right? Oh, it's so epic. The flavor text says, you must start somewhere and have some roots. And the soil of the Shire is deep. Man, this almost gives me chills. I love it. It's so good. After that, we've got Tom Bombadil. So neat, man. He is one of every color for a legendary god bard. What a crazy concept. So he is 4/4. As long as there are 4 or more lore counters among sagas you control, Tom Bombadil has hexproof and indestructible. What a weird ability, caring about 4 lore counters on sagas. It also says, whenever the final chapter of a saga you control resolves, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a saga card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. This is a very weird ability, but Tom Bombadil is a very weird and endearing individual, right? He's instantly likable from the story, but it's not quite clear who and what he is. Clearly, he's not just some normal man, but there are a number of different theories about basically his birth, where he comes from. It's what was one of the theories? That he might actually be the living embodiment of the song of creation that's responsible for everything existing, which is a crazy concept, right? And if you take the idea here, he's almost like an endless living story. As long as there's enough stories going on, he's indestructible. And when your sagas end, then you get to go and get other ones. So this is a really funky card from a gameplay perspective, and a really, really cool depiction of the character. Look at him here. The flowers all blooming up around him. You've got the butterflies flying away. It looks so good. Oh, he's just got the right vibe, man. This is awesome. This artwork is fantastic. Who's the artist? Me! Oh, I did this. Cool. All right, moving. By the way, that's me with 2 E's, not as in I actually did this artwork. Next, we've got another version of Sam. This is him as the loyal attendant. 1 green, 1 white, and 1 for a legendary halfling peasant. He partners with Frodo, the adventurous hobbit. So, when he comes out, you can actually go and get Frodo from your library, put him into your hand too. That feels right. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a food token. That makes perfect sense with Sam. Activated abilities of foods you control cost 1 less to activate. I love this. Halflings obsessed with food from the Shire feels absolutely on point. The fact that he's constantly making food feels on point. And the fact that they're so focused on food and reducing the activated abilities feels on point flavor-wise, and is actually a really solid ability as well, right? I mean, if you could somehow have 2 copies of this guy out, now your food costs nothing to activate. The fact that he's legendary, I mean, you'd have to do some kind of weird cloning or whatever, but then you got 2 happy little hobbits going, oh, I love you, Frodo, let me flip you up some pancakes, bro. I love the relationship between Sam and Frodo. It's this old world sort of camaraderie and love, but not a romantic love. Some people do confuse it for that, but it's something deeper, and it's something that, I don't know, it speaks to the old days when people weren't as afraid to share their emotions in some way. I don't know. There's just something really awesome about the relationship. And Sam shown here with the frying pan and the backpack, oh, it feels so good. It feels so good. Then we've got Mount Doom, the legendary land. Pay 1 life to add a black or red. That part don't feel so great, right? Pay 1 red, 1 black, and 1. Tap it. It deals 1 damage to each opponent. The inevitability. and then 1 black, 1 red, and 5 sack it and a legendary artifact. Choose up to 2 creatures, then destroy the rest. How awesome is this? This is supposed to represent that moment of Samwise and Frodo making it up to the top of Mount Doom and casting the ring. Well, I mean, obviously Gollum gets involved in there too. It's not quite as simple, but still, this is that moment, the peak moment in the story where they finally reach their goal. And look at the way this is depicted. At first glance, you might go, this is just another Magic the Gathering mountain. If you just see the lava flows and the mountain in the middle. But then look at the front. It's all completely desolate, just black slag everywhere. And this thing is just belching noxious smoke into the sky endlessly. Blackened sky, blackened earth. It looks super epic, man. I love it. Then we've got Radagast, Wizard of the Wilds. 1 blue, 1 green, and 2 for a 3/5 legendary avatar wizard. He has Ward 1. Beasts and birds you control have Ward 1. He protects the wilds. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, choose one. Create a 3/3 green beast creature token or a 2/2 blue bird creature token. Bro, I love this. I love big dumb creatures. I love casting big spells. I love generating tokens. All of it. I love Radagast in his pure joy as this little bird has alighted on his finger and is warbling to him as he laughs either at its song or the news of the day. And you have the deer and the bear staring up at him like adoringly. All of nature loves Radagast, and even his staff is free of adornment. It really just looks like a gnarled branch, and it has the absolute right vibe. Radagast feels fantastic, right? This is so good. This is so good. Okay, then we have You Cannot Pass. 1 white instant. Destroy target creature that blocked or is blocked by a legendary creature this turn. This feels like garbage. This feels like absolute trash to me. I could be wrong, and maybe it's going to be some kind of commander all-star maybe, because you always have your legendaries. But when I read this, I go, this is like the worst Swords to Plowshares-esque spell I've ever seen. 1 white mana to destroy a creature is a great deal, but these conditions are terrible. You have to have blocked or block it, and it has to be legendary. Like white destroy spells will be like 2 mana, destroy target tapped creature. This feels awful from a gameplay perspective. From a flavor perspective, where Gandalf is stopping the Balrog, pretty epic, right? I mean, the Balrog is literally crashing down here. Looks like he doesn't have wings. Okay, no wings. So he's about to fall through, and he's going to send that fire whip up, bam, around Gandalf's ankle. Sick, dude. Flavor text says, it raised the whip, and the thongs whined and cracked. Fire came from its nostrils, but Gandalf stood firm. Yes! Gandalf is awesome. So, friends, there are also box toppers in this set, and we're going to take a look at a couple of them, starting out with the Party Tree. I'm actually glad this is coming back because I need a Great Henge for my cube. So this is a reskin of the Great Henge. There are cards that are box toppers for this set that are not modern legal, and they are not being made modern legal. So I don't have the image for it here, but there's a Wasteland included, and the Wasteland is not modern legal. So Great Henge obviously already is modern legal because it was in Throne of Eldraine, but I just want to let you know the box toppers will range into the older stuff too, and are not considered being moved into modern. Party Tree is the Great Henge, which, as we all know, is 2 green and 7, although you never really pay that casting cost, because it costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So you're usually going to get to cast this thing for 5 or less mana. At least for me, that's how it usually went. You tap it to add 2 green and 2 life because this is an insane artifact. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. Doesn't care if you cast it, doesn't care how it came into play. This card is bonkers. I love the Great Henge so much. Its power level is right off the chain. And having it redone in Lord of the Rings style, where you have one of these, I assume, kind of birthday celebrations going on, it's got such a nice little vibe. All the lights up in the tree, the little tent of revelers over there. Such a fun, cozy little vibe you don't normally get to experience in Magic the Gathering cards, right? And then the next card we're going to talk about box topper wise is the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. And this is Ensnaring Bridge, right? This is a crazy card. Creatures with power greater than the number of cards in your hand can't attack. So it's a very limiting card in that way. Great for decks that don't really want to engage in combat or just have a bunch of weak creatures. So really you see this in control builds, right? But the flavor behind it is amazing. This represents a particular location in Middle Earth. And you read the flavor text and it says, the way out lay across a slender bridge of stone. It was an ancient defense of the dwarves that could only be traversed in single file. And you may recall, this is actually where Gandalf faces off against the Balrog. So he ruined the bridge. Gandalf, how could you do that? Anyways, a super epic choice as a box topper. I really do like the way they're doing this kind of execution. Now, I want to talk about the rings that they're including, serialized rings. So, first of all, we're going to talk about the Elven, Dwarven, and Human rings. So this is kind of a fun concept in terms of the way that the story goes 3 rings for Elven Kings, 7 for Dwarf Lords, 9 for Mortal Men's. Mortal Men's. So, Wizards is emulating that in a similar way. So for the Elven Sol Rings, there are going to be 300 serialized of them, okay? And then there's going to be 700 serialized Dwarven Sol Rings, 900 serialized Human Sol Rings. And those are for the foil serialized. But they're also non-foil, non-serialized, but they're limited in number too. So there's only 3,300 Elven Sol Rings. 3,000 of them are not foil, all right? And not serialized. 300 of them are serialized. 7,700 for the Dwarven Sol Rings and 9,900 for the Human Sol Rings. These can all only be acquired within collector boosters, okay? But the One Ring is where it gets really crazy because there literally is only one ring. They have created only one of this ring in the entirety of the printing of this, okay? So it's going to show up in a collector booster, specifically in English only. It will not be available in other printings in other languages, and there are no non-foil, non-serialized versions of it. So this is literally a one of in existence. And I'm of two minds about it. On one hand, it is pretty neat to create a super unique item like this, right? You've got this chase crazy, whoa, who's gonna get it? Number 1 of 1, like that is a fun target to aim for. Woo, will I get it? Will some random person crack it and not even know that it's some special card? But the real question I have is, what will the quality of this card be like? We saw with the serialized cards before that there were massive quality problems. Card after card after card came back with errors. So it really does make me wonder, will extra care be taken to make this card particularly special? Also, Wizards of the Coast keep some of their product back for themselves for future use, right? So if they do that, and with this set, which is highly likely, there's the possibility that the one ring they've created actually never leaves their possession and actually just stays in a box that they have kicking around at the warehouse. If you guys didn't know, that's how they got the old Legends cards that they shoved back in that promotion where like bonus packs with Legends cards in it. We found these Legends boxes. They found them in the warehouse where they stored them decades ago. It's not even a secret. Wizards of the Coast has openly stated that they keep all of like everything they make, they keep a certain portion of it in their warehouses for if they need it. So there's the chance that this one ring could either end up horrifically mangled, it could end up never making it out into the wild, and it does really bring up another question for me. What is to stop somebody from making a fake version of this, right? Proxies have reached the point where they are incredibly good. I was sent some proxies of foil Ragavans and stuff like that that look indistinguishable from the original. If you don't know all of the little tests, flip it over, take a look at the green dot, all this stuff. If you don't know those level of tests, you can easily be fooled by this era's proxies. So what's to stop somebody from taking the digital image of this, making themselves a proxy, and then sending it into like a grading company and having it graded? We've reached the point where the grading companies, they don't even notice the little planeswalker symbols down in the left-hand side of the card on set booster cards. So when you get a card from the list and it has that planeswalker symbol, grading companies are seeing that as being printed from the original set. They can't tell the difference even with a clear indicator on the card to let them know. So if somebody does go ahead and manufacture this, what's to stop them from submitting it for grading and then going, I have the real one? There are no other ones to compare it to. How are you going to be able to authenticate it? So it does really call into question that aspect of the collectability. I don't know how that really gets answered either. It's an interesting thought at the very least. So I'm curious to see where this ring is going to show up. It's going to be big news when it does, but remember, we've seen serialized sequences of cards where all of the cards haven't shown up. So the number 500 serialized cards that we got previously, we haven't seen all those show up. The first set of serialized reversed cards, those haven't all showed up. So it's entirely possible we never even have this card see the light of day. Absolutely wild, but the Elven text looks pretty sweet, doesn't it? Anyways, that wraps up everything I have to say today. Let me know your thoughts on these spoilers because I am super hyped about this set. Big shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you very much for supporting this channel. I will see you all, my friends, in the next video, or feel free to come and hang out in tonight's live stream. I'll leave a link to my other channel down in the description if you want to come by.